Yo guys, what's going on? All right, let's talk about spiritual warfare, shall we? And cheers. I'm drinking spring water out of a glass mason jar because I prefer my water not full of toxins, not full of endocrine disrupting, feminizing, forever toxins and all that stuff that's in the tap water nowadays. So, seems like a tangent, but it's actually related to the subject of spiritual warfare because there are so many angles. So, as it's raining very hard where I am right now, which is pretty unusual for this kind of year to get this level of rainfall. We've also been having some lightning storms that are extremely unusual. I've got actually some footage of some stuff that I might upload on here because it's just so incredibly bizarre, and this also relates to the topic. All right, so let's just get real. Let's get real with it right now, okay? Because that's what we're all about on this channel, is getting real. So let's get real. We're in the midst of a war. And this war for a while was mostly covert. It was mostly under the surface. It was mostly like a Cold War, as it were. But the war is getting much hotter, okay? The types of attacks, the variations of attacks, and the level of aggressiveness that the attacks are taking is increasing. All right, you guys, and I know you guys feel it. I know you guys see. I know you see it. I know you feel it. I know I'm not alone. All right, it's part of the reason I make these videos. It's just so you guys know you aren't alone. You're not going crazy. A lot of people that are stuck in their mindset, that are stuck to the screens, that are stuck to the status quo, that just are so afraid to stand out in the crowd. A lot of these people, they seemingly are blind. I think that a lot of these people actually do see it, but they can't figure out how to integrate it because it's just such a radical shift in awareness to become aware that we're under attack, like all of us, all the time. Okay? The weather is being manipulated, okay? It just is. It's a fact. It doesn't make you a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, whatever. Like, it's just a fact. There are patents on this stuff. You can look it up. You can fact check this all you want. It's been going on since the Vietnam War. They've been working on this for a very long time. They've gotten really good at it. And it's part of why there's so much weird weather going on in so many parts of the world. So that's one aspect of it. Again, another aspect of it, I'm going to start with the surface aspects, and I'm going to make my way into the more subtle aspects of it, because as we make progress on the spiritual path, we learn to really integrate and cope with the more kind of tangible, obvious aspects of the warfare, and then we start to experience the much more subtle ones. So I'm going to start with the really big things. I'm going to work my way to the small things, all right? So the big things, like I said, the weather, the food system, right? The foods that we're being told to eat in mass. Like if you watch the NFL, if you watch the Super Bowl, that's like the perfect example. Like, what is being advertised to you when you watch the Super Bowl? And what goes on? What do people do when they watch the Super Bowl? Well, you sit on your butt, you watch other people work really hard. You watch these like incredible athletes bust their asses on the field after they've been training their asses off and eating super clean food all year and probably not drinking or doing drugs, or else they couldn't perform at that level. So there's an irony here that makes me smile. And then as a country, everybody gets together and eats like fried foods and pizza and wings and drinks beer and sits on the couch and watches all of these athletes that don't do any of that stuff. Meanwhile, in the commercials, you're being told to eat, fast food, drink beer, idolize celebrities. You're shown cars you can't afford and people living lives that you can't, afford to live. And you're also having pharmaceutical drugs marketed to you, because those are drugs that are going to treat the symptoms of this terrible lifestyle that's being marketed to you. And then those drugs have side effects like cardiac arrest and death and stroke and all this stuff. So it's like, oh yeah, your skin's messed up because you're eating Taco Bell, so here's a pill that might kill you, but it'll fix your skin. I mean, it's just insane. This is how insane this is. And some people just sit there and gobble it up and don't even notice how insane it is, okay? That's the really egregious, obvious warfare, okay? So the food system, the weather system, the pharmaceutical system, all of these things are essentially weaponized against us. And people that haven't figured it out are being poisoned on a regular basis. Even the people that have figured it out are being poisoned, because you can't really escape the weather. I mean, you go outside, there's toxins in the air. They've populated the atmosphere with so many nanoparticles of, you can't even fathom this stuff. But I'm not here to promote fear or anything. Like, do I seem scared right now? Like, I'm enjoying my life. I'm having a great time. Part of the reason I'm able to do this, by the way, is because I live a detox lifestyle, is what I call it, all right? I'm going to go into more depth about this in future videos, because I do believe this is very important. Obviously, this is a semen retention channel. That's essential to you having a clear mind, a sober mind. You can't be driven around by lust. You can't be driven around by cravings for sugar, for sex, for laziness, for, escapism, alcoholism, workaholism, blah, 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 blah. So many distractions to keep you from your own inner connection with spirit, which is going to edify you, which is going to give you wisdom, which is going to give you discernment, which is going to lead you towards healthier decisions, which are going to make you a healthier person, which is going to make you more effective in the world and help you find your purpose and your mission, which is the last thing these attackers want for you to do. That's the whole thing. That's the whole game. So it's all spiritual, right? I mean, I'm naming all the chemical, biological, psychological forms of warfare, but at the core, it's spiritual. It's spiritual warfare. It's a battle for your soul. It's a battle for your attention, right? They want your attention on the surface of things, not on the invisible, eternal nature of the spirit, right? That's the whole thing. And a lot of things in this world are actually designed to deceive you and pretend to be spiritual things when really they're not, And this is a whole other thing. This gets into the realm of like psychedelics and New Age mysticism. I'm sitting in front of a New Age shop right now as we speak, actually. Tarot cards and crystals and all this stuff. And it's like, we've glamorized this stuff and called it spiritual, but really that's materialism at its finest. Because what do I got to go to a store and I got to pay money for a crystal so I can manifest what I want? That is materialism at its finest. That is not spiritual, okay? The spirit is invisible. It is your birthright. You are a spirit in a body. Why do you need these external things to give you a connection to God? It turns out that actually abstaining from external things gives you a stronger connection to God. Abstaining from the corn, abstaining from the you-know-what, abstaining from having casual relationships with women that are probably also engaged in all these various forms of like witchcraft. As far as I'm concerned, it's witchcraft. All right. And that's something that a lot of people think is cool. People think it's so cool. I'm a witch. It's like, bro, how is that cool? How is that cool? I'm sorry. I don't like it. Okay. I digress. Spiritual warfare, right? So there's all of these really aggressive, obvious forms of attacks that are being perpetrated against us. The whole political system, again, that's another form of attack. The legal system, the laws they write, they can just change. You've got legislators and lobbyists like just changing the letter of the law all the time while you're distracted on the screens and the celebrities and the gossip and the politics and all this stuff. It's just a big show to distract you while they sit there and change the letter of the law. If it's a law, it can't be changed. Let's get real. These laws are just sort of like nonsense. And the illusion of authority is imposed upon us, and then people buy into it, and then cops are like taking orders from their office, their chief, the order of command, it goes way up. Luckily, a lot of cops these days, I think, are waking up to what's going on. A lot of them are still asleep, but let's pray that more and more people in positions of authority wake up to what's really going on here, because then the powers that be really don't have henchmen anymore, okay? That's why it's very important for me to talk about this stuff, right? Like we need to be unafraid to speak on these things, and we need to be articulate in the way we do so, all right? So there's the really big stuff, all right? Now let me get to the little stuff before this video goes on too long. the more subtle forms of spiritual attack, all right? These are the ones you're really going to start to get accustomed to when you start to transcend the fear of all of the stuff that's going on around you, and you start to integrate and you go, okay, well, that's what's going on. There are this is evil, ruling class of elite bloodlines that go back to, all the way up to Lucifer, basically. So you become aware of that, and it's gnarly and it's like hard to integrate, but you integrate it and then you move past it, and then you get on a spiritual path and you're like, okay, you start to heal, you start to figure out the laws of the body, the mind, and the spirit, and you start to transcend this stuff. But then because you're transcending this stuff, because this is a spiritual war at core, the forces unseen in the spirit realm are very aware of what you're doing, and they don't appreciate it. They really don't like it, especially when you start speaking out on these things like I am. So any content creators out there that are making content like this are very, very aware of what I'm talking about. So the things that start to come into play when you really start to become wise to what's going on and you start to become vocal about it, well, now you're going to experience these really subtle forms of spiritual attacks, which happen on the mental plane primarily. The spirit, I think of the mind as the interface between the body and the spirit, right? So spirit is unseen. The mind has a brain. The brain gives rise to the mind. If I shut off certain parts of your brain, it's going to change your conscious experience, which tells us that our consciousness does relate to material in the brain, but also if you shut off parts of the brain, you're still having a conscious experience. This is what a near-death experience is. This is also what like ego death on psychedelics is like your parts of your brain are shut off, yet you are still having an experience. And that's why people interpret that as being a spiritual experience, because on a level it is, but really it's a mental thing. But I digress. So the mind being like the interface between the body and the spirit, right? So the spirit realm is very real, and these dark forces in the spirit realm, which are generally disembodied, are going to try and reach you through your mind. That's where you're going to experience it. And things that are going to happen are going to include things like self-doubt. Or you're going to judge yourself, right? Something in you is going to tell you, like for me, I'll just, from my own personal experience, like, don't make that video. Don't upload it. Or after I uploaded it, the things go through my head are like, oh, people are going to judge you. Nobody's going to like it. Oh, well, what's the point? Blah, blah, blah. These are like these subtle spiritual attacks that happen on the mental plane, and they come from the spiritual realm. They come from the dark forces in the spiritual realm that really don't appreciate the progress that you're making. You're starting to transcend. You're starting to exit the matrix, and it's like they're the agents of the matrix. And then again, because these spiritual disembodied forces don't necessarily have bodies to work on you through anymore, they're going to find open vessels and try and attack you. So a lot of times you'll just have haters. And this is something I experience like so much these days, is like certain people, it's just, they look for the flaws. They see me and they're like, they want to point out the flaws in what I'm doing. And that is a way of them trying to strengthen this self-doubt that I already live with, and try and slow me down. Try and discourage me from continuing to do what I'm doing. So whoever you are, if you're a chosen one, which you probably are, if you're still watching this video, you're probably a chosen one. You're either a chosen one or you're an agent that can't stand me for whatever reason, and you're just going to find fault in whatever I'm doing, and that's fine. That's your prerogative. I really don't care. But if you're still watching this, I assume that you resonate, and that means you're chosen. That means you understand what I'm saying to you, and you're having similar realizations on your own, right? So that means that you are probably subject to these more subtle forms of attack, which I like to call the do it later demon or the self-doubt demon. Those are the big ones, man, because you have a purpose. And deep down, you know what that purpose is. And if you can put away the distractions enough, that purpose is going to become more and more clear to you, right? And as that purpose becomes more clear and you start to walk in that purpose, these forces are going to start to try and work against you. But because you're walking in your purpose and you're with the spirit, you have this kind of spiritual armor. You're protected in a sense. And these things have to figure out these really like tricky, subtle ways to get at you. They can't get at you through the women anymore. They can't get at you through fear of tomorrow anymore, because you have faith, because you're in your spirit. So they get at you through these little mental loopholes, right? And that's why it's very important, you guys, to be very, very conscious about what do you eat, right? What kind of foods you're eating. What kind of content are you watching? What kind of music are you listening to? What kind of words are you speaking? What kind of company are you keeping? All of these things become super important because they can open portals for these attacks, okay? Drugs and alcohol are right out. That is right. I'm sorry if you don't want to hear that. I'm so sorry, but I have to tell you the truth, okay? I did so many drugs in my life. So the women, the drugs, the alcohol, all of it. I did all of it, okay? That's why I know. That's why I can speak so confidently, because I know. I've been there. I've done that, okay? That stuff's right out. We are in a time period, you guys, where the stakes are very high. The attacks are extreme. This cold covert war is becoming not so covert. It's becoming very obvious who's who in the game, all right? And we need to be sober-minded, vigilant, strong, confident, clear-headed, wise, discerning, loving, all of these things, all of the fruits of the Spirit. These are what we need to be expressing in the world, all right? And this is what I'm experiencing as the fruits of my abstinence from various forms of sin. Of course, I'm not perfect. I still fall short, probably on a daily basis in some way. You know, some sins are unconscious, but as we progress in the path, we become conscious of them, and then it's our duty to fix that, all right? So this video went longer than I expected, but this is a huge subject, and it's super important, you guys. So I hope y'all got something out of this. I hope that this encourages you. Please don't be afraid. That's a low vibe, all right? Please be happy. Celebrate the fact that you are given the gift of insight, given the gift of discernment, all right? This means that you are chosen, you are protected, and you have a divine purpose here. And it's beautiful. And I'm here with you. I'm here for you. Let's go, guys. Peace.